Hello, everyone. I just think there's a sense of urgency to share with you the latest update and how the market look like. For those of you who listened to my video, over the weekend, I related last week in forward looking. I was actually anticipated and probably one of the person that made guilty, but kind of from a risk perspective standpoint, that the more downside and the upside. So I was kind of projected this market could be going down, and I asked people to think about selling and profit taking and think about the Fed tapering that will have an impact, adverse impact of the market. But a lot of obviously today Powell came out and talked about a Fed tapering, so you kind of give you more certainty now of the market, and you can see that today Wednesday market things have started to turn around actually, quite a bit of rebounding, but still want to share perspective with you because before just looking 1 day perspective. The Dow Jones Industrial Average obviously today was up about 300 plus points, and the day before, yesterday was actually down a little bit, when it was up, but from the perspective of well, actually, I take that back. Yeah, it was up a little bit, when the market closed it at but in the 5 days perspective, it gives you a very clear picture what happened. So it's down about 1.59%, 552 points in 5 days. Okay, so we just started with previous, previous week, Thursday to count, and then the 5 days. And then you can look at 50 week. But before I move on to the next index, I want to give you a quick highlight as well on the numbers. So the 52 weeks high, however, is at 35,631, meaning that it was, from where we closed at today, is already adjusted 1,400 points, roughly, close to 1,400 points already from a record high. So you can think about it, if we were going to be hitting from now till the month of October, back to high again, because asset tapering probably not the case, or kind of expect in November, didn't really talk about how much it will, and circumstances and condition could change the way our power sounded it. What would be happening to your portfolio? Let's say don't get up 1,200 points, but 600 points up again, which are halfway from this point to 52-week high. Okay, just think about that. If that happened between now till October, before where the people think the market could crash, you still have the opportunity and the upside of another 1.6% in this case, roughly, right, 600 points. Otherwise, it'll be 3% up again. And then on the Nasdaq perspective, another one which is really clear picture for 5 days, rather than just look at today to the market that get rebounding up. It's actually done 223 points, which is 1.48%. So this one 1.59, 1.48%, and from a 52-week highs, it was still already 500 points away, which will meaning that it will be about another 3% increases. Not quite 3% because now the interest denominator bigger, but you got my narrative. So you'll be down that, let's say, half of that too, and think about how your Nasdaq portfolio look up. Particularly in Tesla done pretty well there from, last month from $650 and drive it up to what, 750. And then the last one, which people a lot of time more pay attention because this pool is a little bit bigger pool, S&P 500, is also in 5 days perspective down about 1.82%. Even to today's, yet again, the market is up after the love and feel good news, which I will cover what happened and give you the. That's why I want to do this video, latest update, because if you listen to this video, that probably the opportunity still have a time window that you can make money off of before if the market did crash in October, which could be a two weeks time window. And you know how history telling you how fast the market can go down, right? In a week, you can lose 20% of portfolio. In a week or so, you can make 10+% as well. Somehow going down is always faster than climb up. That's the other thing to think about it like a slider. Slider is always faster than trying to move, you're climbing it, right? So again, from the perspective of the high end as well, it's about 100 points, 100, 140 point, 150 points, which will be again 3% roughly on the S&P 500 as well. If the market will go up all the way to high, if not, just take the half, which is maybe going up another 80 points. So market, just to give you a little bit description what happened starting from last Friday, market was very optimistic about the FOMC meeting along with potential exposure, which probably hear about it by now. I mean, if you don't, even though you don't pay attention to Chinese government regulations and the market, the one of the largest US they got Evergreen, kind of faced bankruptcy. I mean, they were literally $3,000 billion in debt, Chinese currency, not in US dollar. So US dollar about 300 billion, which is really huge if you think about it. But some people believe that if you think about too big to fail scheme, it's just like the banks back then, in the crisis in US, government come about out, Chinese government maybe in some aspect, some extent may help and save the company, but not in a way popularly in what the U.S. investor will be expected. So be careful about that. But regardless, there's some good news though. So previous Friday, Dow Jones dropped 300 points along with other index, and Dow Jones further slipped to 970 points intraday on Monday, with Nasdaq and S&P also down 1%. So during the FOMC meeting Tuesday, market rebounded slightly. I mean, looking at the market, looking at the meeting, normally it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Wednesday come out to give you actually the conclusion or statement, whatever you call that. There's still uncertainty in the market, so how the Fed will be impacting the future profitability investment environment. So you can see the market. Therefore, you had just a slight rebound. And interesting enough, right? So while many people were expecting the Fed tapering in November possibly, so it wasn't looking good. So yield curve could have gone up, and interest rate in most cases don't think there will be adjusted at the moment from the last minutes that was provided by Powell, which people will take a word for that. The market was actually up because of the good news that Evergreen, which is the Chinese real estate property, high profitability. I mean, they say they have high probability of meeting the interest payment obligation. That's still in the Hong Kong stock market just end up right now. Evergreen stock actually gone up by about 15%. So there's some hope and momentum around that stock, and mostly a lot of time people day trade right when the stock was hitting that down, and when they were really at the golden age, it's like worth $40 a share, something like that. And then Tencent also just announced share buyback plan is around 448, which will help stabilizing the share price. As you know, Tencent, that's the Hong Kong stock price, just to give you perspective. They were at even 6 weeks ago, if you look at probably were really at around $700. So, and they were actually at $770, and then you slip it at low as very close to $400, and then we bought 400, I think 425, something like that, and then we bought back. So it was really struggling within the range, but we're buying back. Normally we're expected there will be some support. That means, right? And also the company itself looking basically have a positive aspect about their operations. The FOMC meeting was also expected from the market, and kind of say what was expected, and also why positive. So there's no anticipation of interest rate rise until year of 2023 or end of 2022. Though there is improvement in the overall economy, the last month of unemployment increased even after of extended employment and decrease of retail activities. So those are the evidence that the economy may take longer to anticipate the recovery from the pandemic. So, also with the Delta variant that, cases were increasing in U.S. So those were kind of justification, about what Powell was having, So he kind of reiterated that, the intentions for Fed to adjust the policies to have a full employment target. That's still the way to think, and that will be the focus for Fed. So with the economy recovery going in the right direction, but with some concern just indicated about earlier. So there's no immediate urgency of asset tapering, but with the board member, that participating in voting for tapering, basically agreed that there's a need for that, and So you didn't really kind of say when it happened from a power perspective, but people kind of know this kind of will be coming, within the reasonable time. So furthermore, U.S. Today and announced that they restructured for international travelers. So that there were time they restricted people from China, India, and I think from UK as well, not able to come to the U.S. unless you're an American citizen, as an exception. And then in addition, Food and Drug Administration on Wednesday, which is today, authorized booster shot of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine for senior and others who are at high risk for the virus. So the cruise stock, so because of that, right? So the cruise stock, the bowling was, up 4%, NCLH up 4%, price up 0.91% after hour, actually up 0.45% today, Wednesday during the trading time. And FAAMG, which is Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Microsoft, and Google, except Facebook, they were all up. So Facebook was down very slightly today. And for combination of these good news, so Dow Jones at the end of Wednesday uplifted by 338 points, which is 1% to 34,258.32. Nasdaq was up 150 points with 1.02% to 14,896.85. And S&P 500 up 44 points, 0.95% to 4395.64. The West has come from a high of 25 a couple days ago to a level of 20s right now, which is more reasonable. But just remember that, if you look at the history of the West chart, there were a period of time is around 15 to 17.5, definitely below 20, okay? But 25 is kind of high, but if you look West, there were time, 1 year is as high as 40. So 40 offices with the pandemic, March last year, and then the price continued to be up and actually, do pretty well with the market. So the West basically keep going down. And all three major indices currently, if you look at the futures right now, is up, especially Dow Jones up about 100 points at the moment. The market will be going through a window dressing next, and with the fear of kind of asset tabling now, kind of certain what happened in the yield curve instability, that not going to be the case. The market expected to be rebound and probably lift higher than the current level. Like I said, I'm not expecting really we're going to hit. I mean, from now to October, you're going to be hitting, the another record high. So if you take the midpoint between where we are at and the high point, you still have some room for growth. So you must really need to careful about the month of October and uncertainty that you can even see impact in the market. So right now, everything with all being set, it looks good. You kind of from the weekend or just a few days ago, what I have published on a video, and now I have a different perspective. But you still, October is still very hard to tell if the market will be end of a corrections, if there's something, some bad news upcoming, right? Or corporate tax have to be increased, or when you do the, profit, make our stock market, you have to pay in tax again. All this stuff, every time they talk about it, the market will react, and then you really, really discourage investors, so the stock will be up. But at the end of the day, is again, the stock market, we talk about stock valuation, we talk about growth stock, talk about prospect the future, which is PAC, in some cases, if you want terminology. But in reality, it's really about the investors' confidence. Confidence that you look at it, 2008 market crash is always about that, right? People believe in it, and whether, because your stock could be overpriced, but if people believe in your company, thinking the future, this is strong, the market is very good, it's still going to be that, and how much cash on the side. So, with Biden 3.5 trillion, budget reconciliation and trying to vote for it, and talk about the ceiling and all this stuff. I'm not going into politics, but just to get an idea that, hey, if they're approved, that means it's going to be more money, and, it's really difficult to argue whether people saving cash right now or, still have excess money or not. Well, we got the stimulus, we already passed through that, right? And then the unemployment rate, keep dropping. But again, the salary, I would argue that people, if you're a low worker, you may actually get paid more, right? But with inflation, which your power arguing transitionary, I'm not necessarily thinking you're less better off. But with the middle class people, like, most of the people, that actual worse off, and rich people again still being rich, even though if the market get hammered, the stock gone down 20%, they still, some of them you can look at them like, yeah, I don't know, they were 5 times more richer than 2 years ago, which is kind of outrageous in my opinion. But that's just the way how, I guess, how the enterprise or the economy operates, right? So that's why you can see why Chinese government do what they do, and you can make the argument. And so does U.S. There's a lot of noise as well as fairness, right? Why rich people get richer while poor people have a hard time to survive, and actually with a lot of debt, right? Even though they're saying there's some debt, that program or whatever, but sometimes you have to have qualified for it. So if people in the middle class like me, then you actually don't have a job for a while, and you eat your own, you spend your own savings. Well, you don't get any forgivenesses whatsoever. So just bear that in mind. With yield curve being low, that attract the corporate borrowing still, you're around, like I discussed before, it's not lower than 1.75, and so 1.25 to 1.75, that kind of range, not go over that. And business acquisition, which that the UBS Bank, I believe, just recently announced the acquisition of another bank, and then there's another acquisition, which is really big. I forgot what company that is, right? These type of activities is always tell you, wow, how are they doing it? Cash, their money, they have a future prospect. They, so actually make the company bigger and stronger, right? And also the trade, which is really the key about, we have the processing chip shortage. We have cargo claiming that is about 3,000 per cargo, for just a little box that kind of hold stuff. They're making everything more expensive. So, I think, again, U.S. need to work cooperatively with the rest of the world, talking about this trade deal, giving discount to everybody, right? Both countries give discount, because you argue about inflation. Where inflation coming from? Well, part of the thing is cost increase, right? So if our power find a way to cut costs. So labor, yes, I have to give them more, right? $15 an hour minimum range. Middle class people should make more, going back to where they are, shouldn't cut 50% of the pay. So then you got to look at somewhere else where you can cut. And the US dollar office is pretty stabilized these days, actually getting stronger as well, which probably could be a good news internally, but could be bad for the for the trade, since they have the trade deficits, and the stock market, regardless, because of these good news and things that I just proposed to mention to you, it still remain attractive at the moment, right? So I'm still very firm about my recommendations just to wrap up, right? So cruise, like I said, up 4%. If you look at the CCL, NCLH, look at the 52 weeks high, with the international travel now being restricted, restriction being lifted, more people doing vaccination. Again, just bear that in mind. That's the key. Well, eventually, back a lot more people, upcoming right now in September, in November, Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, there will be movements around that. So, and then also business travel as well, which is another piece that have not 100% resumed yet at this point. So there's a lot of positive side about the airline, and and the cruise and entertainment perspective that can go on. Bowling today up 4% as well, being an advantage with the news that coming up with that. Obviously they're doing that. But again, I got to reiterate that bowling is still at a point very low to compare to a few years ago. Obviously, you cannot compare last year pandemic. That time the stock was dropping to $90 a share. So that's as low as it gets. But you come back down to $200, which you can argue it double. But if you look at a few years ago, they were $450. Disney stock, well, again, the more Marvel movie coming up, and Christmas coming, people go and watch movie in theater, or now they're doing this streaming, so it will be a revenue generator for the company. Again, you look at the future, this is only going to get bigger. Chinese high-tech giant Tencent, although they are donating money to the government, they get fines or whatever you want to call it, right? This company is still making money, profit. The valuation is still good. It's still one of the most important companies in China. Pinduoduo is still, again, waiting for double November. Worst case scenario, if no, double November doesn't really go as well as it's go, then we'll wait for Chinese New Year, which is next year, which you were talking about 5 months, 5 months away from this point, which are still looking positive about that stock. And then also there's some YY, and which is part of the um, um, Baidu. You can buy Baidu too. Right now, I still think pretty low. So eventually, this stuff will be coming back. And given the Delta variants in, pretty content in China now, I mean, they're really doing really good job to controlling that. Even though we understood that that's really part of business in the world now. And hopefully, like I said, I really sincerely hope this will just surprisingly one day like SARS going away, so everybody happy, go back to normal, and then we don't need the 6 feet distance anymore, wearing a mask, so we can be feeling we're much closer again with the social life back on. But if not, we always have contingency plan, which is really vaccine, or do what you need to do to make sure that you remain safety and healthy, and then also eating well, so you can have a stronger antibody against for yourself. And then we open a travel, and the economic restructuring for China. Like I said, right now it's still a transitionary, but we will see the effect once it's passed. And few months, we may see the pain right now, but a lot of time once it's going through, you'll be rewarding. Or in the old days, China will always find ways to implement a new policy to make things better than it is right now if the thing goes south. So I hope you like my video. I hope what I'm giving you give you some really good hint about some assurance about how I see it now at this moment till October. But then you really have to pay attention to the market, because again, if the market can survive in October, and which you meaning November talk about tapering, and you'll be probably gonna defer it again with some other reason, or have clarity about how much tapering they're actually doing, which doesn't impact the overall stock market, then the market could be still going to reaching out to the target where at the beginning someone, like I said, that was somebody was saying 40,000, right? So we still have a long way to go. If you look at the number today, right, which is now 35, 44, that means 20%. You never know. It could still be possible if we're not crashing or correction, but rather an adjustment right now for this stage, and then rebound back again. We've seen it before that somehow the rebound was actually ending up to be higher and hitting the record high. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, just email me. Have a nice and wonderful day. Hope everybody will make money in the market.